Cops gun down 17-year-old in police station lobby. Longview, Texas police officers Glendor, Duffey, and Grace Bagley have been placed on paid leave after the fatal shooting of Kristianna Coignard in the police station lobby last Thursday. Surveillance footage shows Coignard entered the lobby just before 6:30 p.m. Officer Durr entered the lobby after Coignard used the lobby phone to call dispatch. When Durr approached the teen, she held up her hand to reveal a message she had written on her palm. "I have a gun." Durr then grabbed Coignard to restrain her. She resisted but was overpowered by the officer. He kept Coignard under control in the seat for 2.5 minutes before she struggled to her feet, only to be tossed to the ground seconds later. The officer then backed away from Coignard. Officer Duffey entered the lobby and Coignard stood up. Officer Bagley arrived to provide backup. All 3 officers were equipped with tasers, but Durr and Bagley held lethal weapons. Police say Coignard then threatened officers with a butcher's knife that she pulled from her waistband. Coignard, brandishing the knife, lunged at Durr. Duffey then fired his taser at Coignard, which officers say was ineffective. Durr fired 3 rounds almost immediately after the taser. Bagley fired 2. Coignard was struck 4 times and was pronounced dead at a local hospital. The 17-year-old had battled mental illness since her mother died when Coignard was just 4 years old. She'd been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression and had twice been hospitalized for attempting suicide. An investigation is underway to determine if officers' use of deadly force was justified.
Woman who attacked Uber driver turns out to be Miami neurologist. You know that video of the apparently drunken woman freaking out at an Uber driver in Miami? Well, it turns out the woman in the video is a doctor. Yes, a doctor. Her name is Anjali Ramkasoon, and she's a 4th-year neurology resident with Jackson Health System in Florida. The video of the incident, which took place in the Brickwell area of the city on Sunday, has since gone viral and is already closing in on 1 million views. And, of course, has led to internet sleuths tracking her down and doing a dox dump on her. Anjali's social media accounts have gone dark, probably to avoid the legions of trolls wanting to call her out for her admittedly boorish behavior. But not before a few people managed to raid her social media accounts for photos, and a few hundred people managed to post comments saying what they thought of her. Anjali has now been suspended from the Jackson Health System, put on administrative leave, and removed from all clinical duties pending an investigation. Let's just hope the disappointment of seeing her career now in jeopardy doesn't cause her to react again in the same way as the video. But shouldn't we cut her some slack? After all, she wasn't arrested, and she did compensate the driver. Should this neurologist really lose a career she spent years working for due to one unfortunate evening?
Newlywed dies after drinking cyanide-laced iced coffee. Indonesian police on Saturday announced the arrest of Jessica Kumala following weeks of investigation into the death of Kumala's friend, partner, newlywed Wayan Mirna Salihin. Mirna died on January 6th while at a restaurant with Kumala and another friend. Soon after drinking iced coffee that Kumala had allegedly ordered for her and that she found to be bitter tasting, the 27-year-old collapsed and began convulsing. She later died at a nearby hospital. Authorities found cyanide in Mirna's stomach, as well as in her iced coffee. Police are now looking into whether or not Kumala, who studied in Australia with Mirna, played a role in the tragic death of her friend.
How to bend it like Beckham. Ever wonder how some of the world's best soccer players get so much spin on long-range shots? It's due to something called the Magnus effect. Most soccer balls are sewn with 12 pentagonal and 20 hexagonal panels. This stitching is crucial to the trajectory of the ball. When bending or curving a soccer ball, the player's foot brushes the outside of the ball, causing the ball to spin. The spin creates an imbalance in airflow. Pressure on one side of the ball is higher than on the other side, pushing the ball toward the low-pressure zone and resulting in a curved trajectory. This is called the Magnus effect. If applied with the correct techniques, the ball can be bended or curved in various ways, depending on the stitching of the ball. A rougher surface makes the swerve of the ball easier to control, while a smoother surface makes its swerve less predictable.
India, the new testing playground for many drug companies. The human papilloma virus, or HPV for short, is a virus that causes cervical cancer in women and can be carried and transmitted by men. Cervical cancer used to be the leading cause of cancer death for women in the United States, but in recent years this number has dropped significantly due to early testing and improved treatment. Now there will be a vaccine offered for HPV which can be administered to children as young as 9. Gardasil, licensed by the drug company Merck, has been approved for use in the United States and will be available in other Western countries by next year, if not earlier. However, a recent scandal has revealed that Merck, among other Western drug companies, have been using Indian children as human guinea pigs, targeting families who are poor, uneducated, illiterate, and desperate. Among them is Aman Dewan, age 16, who received the test vaccine. His family was told by doctors that it would cure and protect him from all diseases, including malaria, and that the doctors would pay his family $16 US. That is potentially 20 times what many poor rural families survive off for a day. After receiving the injection, Aman noticed that he lacked energy and was not able to run without feeling sharp pains in his stomach. He also lost his appetite and became very weak. His family didn't know what to do and they were not offered any aftercare and couldn't afford to pay for tests to find out what was wrong with Aman. Whether by design or coincidence, many of the test trial participants were poor and uneducated. Other children also suffered from weakness, headaches, late periods, dizziness, and nausea. The other thing they had in common was the fact that none of them knew they were taking part in test trials. Dr. Jan is an Indian doctor who faces accusations that he ran drug test trials for international companies without patient consent or without fully informing the patients of the drugs they were being administered. The children trusted their parents, who in turn trusted the doctors. Many of the parents were unable to even sign the consent forms and only marked them with a thumbprint.
Good Samaritan saves cop. A 56-year-old woman has been hailed a hero after she fearlessly stepped in to stop a cop from being brutally attacked. A Baton Rouge officer had found drugs on a man during a Sunday morning traffic stop, but when he attempted to make an arrest, the suspect became combative and aggressive. A woman passing by saw the altercation and asked if the officer needed help. Before he could answer, the suspect grabbed his baton and began to hit him repeatedly on the head. The woman called 911 and tried to stop the assault by jumping on the suspect's back. She held him off until a second officer arrived and restrained him with a stun gun. Both the officer and his savior were taken to the hospital and treated for minor injuries. Both were released Sunday night. The suspect has been booked into parish prison on several charges, including battery and drug possession.
Murderous, abusive husband's first wife finally speaks up. Mr. Zhang has been arrested by police in Taiwan for beating his girlfriend to death. Friends and family of the victim have gathered around the police station in a demonstration. Some of the demonstrators are demanding that police release Zhang over to them for vigilante justice. The father of the victim said he wanted to return every beating or blow Zhang had inflicted on his daughter. Last week, Zhang beat his live-in girlfriend to death, then dumped her unconscious body at the emergency room, and fled before staff could ask him anything. We were able to reach out to Zhang's wife, who said she'd suffered his abuse for years. Together they had a son, who is now 9 years old and lives with his mother. Zhang's first wife, identified by her last name Lin, said that Zhang had broken both her arms once, and another beating had caused her to urinate blood for nearly a month. Lin said she knew the victim, Ms. Wu, aged 23, and had told Wu about the abuse she'd suffered at her husband's hands. Ms. Wu didn't believe or didn't want to believe Lin's stories. Later, Zhang would dope his girlfriend and make her a drug addict dependent on him for her next hit. Lin said she sympathized with Wu's friends and family because she could have easily have been beaten to death by her ex, leaving her son in the hands of his abusive father.
Kentucky school bus driver drags 7-year-old 100 feet down the street. Taking the school bus home when you're a kid is always a drag. On the afternoon of Friday, May 15th, a little girl left Wilkerson Elementary School in Valley Station, Kentucky to catch the bus home. The bus driver was apparently in such a hurry that she didn't notice when the 7-year-old's backpack got stuck in the door before driving away. The girl's babysitter was waiting outside for her to get home and watched in horror as the young girl was dragged down the residential road. According to the police report, the girl was dragged beside the bus for 100 feet, but eyewitnesses estimated the distance to be closer to the length of a football field. Part of the incident was caught on the surveillance camera of a neighbor, including the moment a red Chevy Camaro came speeding up behind the bus. Luckily, the driver of the Camaro had noticed the girl trapped in the door and took action, cutting through a neighbor's yard to get in front of the bus and make the driver come to a halt. The girl survived with road rash, scrapes, and bruises, and neighbors immediately rushed to check on her. An investigation into the incident is underway.
New drug offers hope in fight against Alzheimer's. The drug aducanumab is believed to aid in the clearing of toxic proteins hypothesized to cause Alzheimer's disease. A recent study measured brain activity of 165 participants, some of whom received the drug once a month for up to 54 weeks, while others received a placebo. Of those who received the drug, 103 experienced a reduction in the amount of tangled amyloid beta, the toxic proteins thought to trigger Alzheimer's, in their brains. For years, scientists have debated whether the buildup of amyloid beta protein causes memory loss and ultimately Alzheimer's disease. In a clinical study, researchers injected the drug aducanumab in early-stage Alzheimer's patients. 1 or 2 in every 1,000 of the antibodies enter the brain, where they latch on to wayward amyloid beta proteins. Researchers believe that other cells called microglia then arrive and clear the aberrant proteins from the brain. The trial's results were in favor of the amyloid hypothesis, which suggests that the elimination of the protein itself might alleviate the disease's symptoms. Two larger Phase 3 trials are now in progress and plan to run until at least 2020.